My name is Willow Rector. I'm a multimedia artist working here both in Winnipeg and southern Manitoba. I've been a visual artist since 2006, and my primary focus is textile art, specifically hand embroidery. Both of my grandmothers, as well as my mother's sister, were very interested in needlepoint, and as many ladies were at that time, you know, they would go to Eaton's or the Bay and buy the kit every winter so that they had something to do. On my dad's side, it was strictly my grandmother, and she was in fact the one who taught me how to do embroidery. I was about 11 and I was living with her for a bit, and she was busy with that year's kit picture. And I was, I guess, pestering her a little bit about it and wanting to know what she was doing and how to do it. And so I think she got tired of explaining it to me, and she got me one that was much smaller than the one that she was doing. And so she tried to teach me how to do it. So much to her chagrin, I just looked at the picture on the box and started winging it. And this was a source of endless frustration to her, because she would just look at me and she'd say to me, "Dearie, where are you? You know, show me, where are you on the map," right? And I could never tell her. And so she would take it from me and try to count it out and figure it out. And then she would give it back to me with, you know, the answer. And I would promptly ignore it again. One of the things that I did learn from her, she was a real stickler for perfection and correct technique. And she told me right from the get-go that the back of the picture should be the mirror image of the front, and that all your knots, all your joins should be invisible. And so she was really, she did eventually give up on the map idea, but she was really determined that I was going to do it in what she considered to be the right way. And you know, that piece of the practice has stuck. Aside from that, I am actually self-taught. So, and I had a long break actually in practicing craft. Like, as I said, I learned this when I was 11, and I stayed with her when I was 11 and 12. And so those were the years that I did it, and it stayed stopped until about 2006. So I went a good 20 years without doing anything at all. And then when I restarted, I've never actually done needlepoint ever again. So when I started the second time as an adult, I was interested in doing long and short. Mm-hmm. And that's the bulk of my practice now. I feel really blessed actually that this practice has come into my life, because it's given a shape to my life. When I began my first series, The Handing On History, in 2006, I was working full-time, and so I was a professor of English literature. I worked at both U of M and U of W, but my partner, her parents were not well. They were quite elderly, and so they had to be moved into a home in and around that time. And we were cleaning out my mother-in-law's things, and we were looking at the closet and taking out some of the handbags, and one laid on the bed, and I looked at it, and for some strange reason I thought, oh my God, that's Gertrude Stein. And it was a very strange moment on all kinds of levels, but I looked at this bag and I just couldn't shake it, that it really reminded me of the physicality of Gertrude Stein. And so I started thinking about, well, what to do with this bizarre thought. And so I started to think about ways that I could merge some of the things that I knew about the physicality of Gertrude Stein and her work into this one object. And the series grew from there. I started looking at other bags and thinking about other writers. And one of the parameters that I set for myself in relation to that series was that I wanted the bag to be from the era in which the woman lived, so that there was some kind of historical connection, almost as if this woman could have, theoretically, carried this bag. So Handing On History was my way of learning embroidery. It was also my way of learning embellishment. I had made jewelry for a number of years, and so I sort of made a transition from using beads and stones in that kind of context into using them as embroidery tools. And a lot of the bags in that series are very heavily beaded and adorned. And that was my focus of my art practice, was learning those kinds of things until 2012. So a good solid 6 years of that. In 2011, I was accepted into the Foundation Mentorship Program at MALA. And so I was there 2011, 2012. And as our year was coming to an end, our group was thinking about our final exhibition. And so as a group, we decided we were going to pursue a theme called the Midnight Petting Zoo. I was busy with the handbags, and they didn't really seem to fit. And so I wasn't originally going to participate. And but my mentor, who was Diana Thornycroft, and she just looked at me, and in a very sort of teacherly kind of way, she just said, "Think about it." And as a former teacher myself, I knew exactly what she meant, which was get on it. One day, seriously, I was vacuuming, and this phrase, glitter skunk, came into my head. And I had no idea what a glitter skunk was. And at first I thought, okay, I'm going to sew together, a stuffed skunk, and I'm going to decorate it up like a disco ball. It's going to be really cute. And that idea lasted about an hour. Because what happened was I went online and started looking at patterns for skunks and realized that these were caricatures of skunks. And in that moment I thought, no, I need a real skunk. And in the moment that I saw her for the first time, I knew that this was no longer a joke. And as I was going through this, one question sort of came into my mind, which was, what was the last thing that she saw before she died? And of course, it's impossible to know that. But what it allowed me to do was to envision the landscape in which the skunk would live. At the end of the day, all of this sort of came into a nocturnal landscape picture. It is the landscape of Tom Thomson's Jack Pine. The Aurora Borealis was actually done in a pattern to represent her vertebrae. On the pelt side of things, where there were holes, where there were pieces missing, I used beading and embroidery to make beautiful her wounds. And that was sort of a thought that came to me spontaneously, which was how to place these animals not only back in their home landscapes, but back in their bodies. And so the motivation for that project was so strong that it's actually propelled me from 2012 to now. And the Trap series has expanded from that one skunk whose name was Trapped to an entire series, which is currently at 7 and will finish at 9 members. The Trap series, they are themselves. And I think, like a lot of folks who engage in making or engage in abstract making, there are pieces of it that resonate with you, but the record of that resonance isn't what's essential for the rest of the work or the reception of that work. The thing about being an artist is that it's, as I like to say, a 14-day-a-week job. You're on it at all times. And it's, I think the thing that I love about it as a profession is that it's varied. You do spend a lot of time alone, particularly in the hand embroidery medium. There's no substitute for the hours. So there's a lot of time just physically, toughing it out. The other thing I've always said is that hand embroidery is a contact sport. And it's really tough on the body. I'm inspired by the land, first and foremost. Even the handbags have a really strong botanical bent, and I have loved botanical art all my life. I love the landscape of the prairies. I really am in love with it. It's in my heart in some very profound way.